1947 से लेकर के अब तक 209 हिंदुओं की निर्मम हत्या वहां हुई है संभल के अंदर, 209 हिंदुओं की।
उत्तर प्रदेश के संभल की जामा मस्जिद में सर्वे को लेकर गुस्साए लोगों ने पुलिस पर पथराव कर दिया। भीड़ को भगाने के लिए पुलिस को भी आंसू गैस के गोले दागने पड़े। देखते ही देखते हालात काबू से बाहर हो गए।
Sambhal is no ordinary town. It's a place where India's glorious spiritual heritage intersects with its tumultuous history. For centuries, this town has been revered in Hindu traditions as the birthplace of Kalki, the 10th avatar of Lord Vishnu, who will restore Dharma in the times of great turmoil. This belief places Sambhal at the heart of India's religious geography. Today, in this video, we'll go into details of the places of worship act, understand why there has been a rise of petitions challenging the legacy of the mosques, and everything in between from the perspectives of Sambhal Mosque. Shahi Jama Masjid or the Sambhal Mosque was built in 1528 by Babur's general Mir Hindu Beg. This mosque is hailed as a symbol of Mughal architectural genius. But what if I told you this structure wasn't built from scratch? What if it was constructed over the ruins of an ancient Hindu temple? Historians suggest that the mosque might incorporate remnants of Harihar Mandir, a temple dedicated to Lord Vishnu. The belief is deeply rooted in Hindu traditions, elevating this debate from a simple historical question to one of the cultural identity and spiritual reclamation. As per the book Architecture of Mughal India by Catherine Ella Blanchard Asser, when Mughals were building the mosque, they knew about the story of Kalki's rebirth. For centuries, the people of Sambhal lived in harmony, but the shadow of lost temples and forgotten legacies loomed large. The Sai Jama Masjid, built during the Mughal conquest, represents more than an architectural ambition. It embodies the systemic erasure of India's spiritual heritage. This isn't just about a building, it's about a history, about temples demolished and sacred sites repurposed to assert imperial dominance. The Harihar Mandir, according to a local tradition, was one such casualty. Today, calls to investigate its remnants are not just about uncovering the truth, they're about reclaiming what was taken. For Hindus, this is more than an architectural dispute. Sambhal is believed to be where Lord Kalki will descend to restore Dharma. The idea that this sacred ground could have been desecrated centuries ago fuels the demand for truth and justice. So, is Shahi Jama Masjid a monument of coexistence, or does it stand atop a sacred Hindu site that demands restoration? As calls grow louder for investigations, the question remains, will history continue to be suppressed, or will the truth finally come to light? The petitioners in the Sambhal Mosque case have been at the forefront of high-profile cases, from Gyanvapi Mosque in Varanasi to Krishna Janmabhoomi dispute in Mathura, and all directed to answer just one question, and that is the truth of these mosques. The petitioners found a critical anchor in a remark made by Justice D.Y. Chandrachud during the Gyanvapi case in 2022. D.Y. Chandrachud had made an oral observations that Hindus have a legitimate right to understand the historical character of a religious structure. He said, ascertainment of a religious character of a place as a processual instrument may not necessarily fall foul of the provisions of Section 3 and 4 of the Places of Worship Act. Now, Section 3 states that the conversion of a place of worship from one religion or sect to another is a criminal act. Section 4 stipulates August 15, 1947 as a cut-off date to determine the character of a place of worship. Armed with this perspective, the petitioners in the Sambhal Mosque case argue that their intent is not to alter the mosque's status but to seek truth about its origins. The Gyanvapi case also set a precedent that influenced similar petitions across the country. Some of these are Atal Masjid in Jaunpur, UP, Samsi Shahi Masjid, Badaun, UP, Ajmer Dargah Sharif. To put an end to filing of numerous petitions challenging the establishment of these mosques, the Supreme Court barred civil courts across the country from registering fresh suits, challenging the ownership and title of any place of worship, or ordering surveys of disputed religious places until further orders. But here where things get tricky. The Places of Worship Act 1991. This law ensures that the religious character of any place of worship as it stood on August 15, 1947 remains unaltered. Critics said this petition violates the Act's principles, but the petitioners argue that they are within their rights. They're not rewriting the history, they're just investigating it. But also at the same time, the Supreme Court has constituted a special bench to hear petitions questioning the constitutional validity of the Places of Worship Act 1991 to solve this issue. Now let's understand what exactly happened in Sambhal. The case took a dramatic turn when the court ordered a videographic survey of the mosque. This move stirred immediate tensions, evoking memories of the Ayodhya dispute. Critics warned of potential communal fallout amidst Operation MPs getting involved, while supporters hailed it as a necessary step towards historical clarity. As the courtroom battle progressed, the media landscape became a battleground of polarized perspectives. On one side, the supporters of the petition see it as an opportunity to uncover hidden truths and restore what they perceive as lost legacy. On the other hand, critics warn that such moves risk unsettling communal harmony and reopening historical wounds best left undisturbed. Media coverage has transformed this case from a localized legal dispute into a nationwide conversation about how we view our shared history. Justice Chandrachud's nuanced observations during the Grandpapi case has been cited by many as validation of the need for the inquiry. However, critics also express concern about the implications of those remarks. They argue that revisiting historical disputes will destabilize India's delicate balance of secularism, cautioning against the interpretations that might undermine the Places of Worship Act. The Places of Worship Act 1991, a cornerstone of India's secular framework designed to preserve communal harmony. But as historical grievances resurface and petitions multiply, this legislation finds itself under scrutiny. Are there loopholes in this act? And can we reconcile these gaps with the pursuit of historical truth? Let's break it all down. The Places of Worship Act was enacted to freeze the religious character of all the places of worship as they existed on August 15, 1947. Its purpose was to preserve communal harmony in a newly independent and secular India. But the Act isn't without its challenges, and cases like the Sambhal Mosque dispute have brought these challenges to the light. A petition was filed to challenge the Act in 2020, and the matter is currently pending at the Supreme Court. The main issues are Section 3, 4 and 5 being unconstitutional as it bars judicial review and violates the basic structure of the Constitution. Also in contention is the violation of the right to freedom of religion as envisaged under Articles 25, 26 and 29 of the Constitution. The first critical gap lies in the cut-off date. The 1947 cut-off date, while symbolically significant, doesn't account for historical grievances that predate independence. What happens when new evidence emerges or cultural identities are deeply tied to disputed sites? These are the questions the Act leaves unanswered. Perhaps this is why the Supreme Court has barred courts from entertaining fresh civil suits or orders on pending cases of the said Act. The Act's blanket prohibition on altering the status quo also creates confusion. For instance, does investigating the historical character of a site violate the law? Petitioners in cases like Sambhal argue that it doesn't. They claim that demands for service are academic. Justice Chandrachud's nuanced observation provide a bridge here, advocating for inquiry that respects the law while addressing legitimate societal curiosity. Now let's address the second critical gap. How does the Act interact with the preservation laws? What happens when protected monuments like the Sahih Jama Masjid of Sambhal are at the center of disputes? Let's dive deeper. The Places of Worship Act provides exceptions for sites protected under the preservation laws, like the Ancient Monuments Preservation Act. But it fails to clarify how these exemptions interact with the prohibition on altering the religious character. This ambiguity creates a legal grey area, particularly for cases involving structures with dual identities like the Sahih Jama Masjid in Sambhal, which is a religious site and a protected monument. This lack of clarity complicates matters for the judiciary. How do you balance the need to preserve history with the mandate to maintain communal harmony? Looking at the complications arising out of the Places of Worship Act 1991, it can be understood that the act brought by the P.V. Narasimha Rao-led Congress government is technically and legally flawed, which has created more issues than it has solved the problems of communal disharmony. The Sambhal Mosque issue is a poignant reminder of the larger historical narrative of India's temples being destroyed and replaced by mosques during Islamic invasions, aiming to erase the Hindu identity of a cherished civilization. The Places of Worship Act, introduced by the Congress government, sought to suppress public efforts to uncover the truth about civilizational history, but it suffers from constitutional challenges and ambiguous provisions. This has led to multiple petitions across civil courts, spurred by Chief Justice Chandrachud's observations on the Act's shortcomings. While the destruction of over 60,000 Hindu temples by Mughals cannot be fully undone, the petition regarding Sambhal Mosque represents a step forward, reclaiming India's historical and cultural understanding. The restoration of temples, where feasible, must be pursued thoughtfully and peacefully, avoiding communal discord. A revised legal framework is essential to address these grievances effectively while fostering harmony and preserving India's diverse heritage. Jai Hind, Jai Jagannath.